Phone caller.
Wow, yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm Peggy Shepard, the co-founder and executive director of We Act for Environmental Justice, and I would like to welcome you all to our introductory webinar that launches our Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, better known as the TCTAC. We Act as a community-based organization. We've been fighting for environmental justice in Northern Manhattan for over 35 years. We're based in Harlem with more than 1,100 members, and we have a federal policy office in Washington, D.C. So we act as hosting the TCTAC for the U.S. EPA's Region 2, which includes New Jersey and New York. And we have an amazing set of partners who you will all meet tonight. We have the Clean Energy Group, Columbia Climate School, Environmental Protection Network, Inter-American University of Puerto Rico Metropolitan Campus, the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, the New York University School of Law Institute for Policy Integrity, and the South Ward Environmental Alliance. Now, the purpose of this TCTAC is to help organizations and local municipalities identify, navigate, and pursue federal funding opportunities to advance environmental justice. Through the TCTAC, we're going to provide training, assistance, capacity building on writing grant proposals, navigating federal systems such as grants.gov and sam.gov, and effectively managing grant funding. The TCTAC will also provide guidance on community engagement, meeting facilitation, and translation and interpretation services for limited English-speaking participants. Now, our TCTAC is one of 17 technical assistance centers across the country that are part of the EPA's Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Centers program. That's why they call it TCTAC. And the U.S. Department of Energy has partnered with the EPA on this program, and they will coordinate with and complement the U.S. DOT, Department of Transportation's Thriving Communities Initiative. We're excited to be able to provide you with training, other assistance to really build capacity for navigating federal grant application systems, for writing strong grant proposals, and for effectively managing grant funding. We'll also leverage this opportunity to build power in environmental justice communities and environmental justice organizations, both in New Jersey and New York, and in developing networks and partnerships throughout the region. And I would like to thank the EPA for developing this visionary program, selecting our team of partners to run the EPA Region 2 TCTAC. We're fortunate to have Lisa Garcia here with us this evening. Lisa is the Regional Administrator for EPA's Region 2, which covers New Jersey and New York, along with Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and 8 indigenous nations. I've known Lisa for years from her days as the Director of Environmental Justice and Indian Affairs at the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, to her time as the EPA's Environmental Justice Lead in the Obama administration. We even had the pleasure of working together when she ran the Climate Solutions Lab at Chris Magazine before her current appointment. I know that she understands environmental and climate justice, and she's been a strong, tireless advocate for those issues. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Lisa. Please welcome Lisa Garcia.
Great. Thank you so much, Peggy. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. So it is really exciting to be talking about this. And Peggy, I just have to say, yes, we've known each other for a long time, but you have been a mentor and a guide and advisor in so many things. And so I feel like this is part of your vision of how EPA needs to show up to build capacity in and for communities. And so it's really great to be here. So thank you, everyone. It's just wonderful to be able to celebrate the launch of WE ACT as the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center, the TCTACs, as everyone's saying. It's just wonderful to see this work moving forward and for WE ACT to be at the helm for Region 2. So I just want to thank you in advance because I know it'll be a lot of work. It has been a lot of work, but there's no one more ready, no organization more ready than to lead this, and also to lead this with the great partners that everyone's going to hear from. It's just a great coordinating effort, body of team or team of people and organizations working on this TCTAC. So as mentioned, this program was in response to a critical ask for environmental justice or from environmental justice leaders, really saying that there needs to be a more accessible resource to be that intermediary between communities and the federal government to help gain a better understanding, to be able to access federal resources, and really to help communities build capacity along with the support of federal funding. And so Peggy went through some of the assistance that We Act and the other partners will be providing. Obviously, it's really great that We Act is leading this. As I said, there were 17 across the country, and we're just really happy that We Act was chosen for Region 2. And Peggy talked a little bit about the leadership over the years of We Act, really being one of the founders of the environmental justice movement and steadfast in every single aspect, no matter if it's changing into making sure that they're working on housing or transportation or climate, just being at the forefront of leading environmental justice efforts, and at that intersection of bringing along other community groups nationally and now internationally. So it's just wonderful to be here. So over the next 5 years, We Act will be receiving $10 million to do the needed work of that community engagement, the grant writing assistance, providing interpretation services, talking to communities or people coming in with ideas and trying to figure out and navigate the whole landscape of federal funding and what is available to them. And obviously Region 2 will be supporting that work along with the Office of Environmental Justice in headquarters. And I just wanted to end before I turn it over to our wonderful partners and back to Peggy to talk about all this great work. I did want to just mention quickly that EPA has a newly launched Community Equity and Resiliency Initiative. That is a space for communities to collaborate and learn about the Inflation Reduction Act funding and other Investing in America opportunities that should be taken advantage of. The first part of the initiative is a virtual series that runs from November 6th to November 14th, and hopefully we can put that information in the chat and send it out to everyone on this. So, so once again, EPA is continuing to support this effort of communicating and informing communities about what the funding is, and the TCTACs will be able to really take action and work more closely with grant applicants. Okay, so with that, I thank you all again. I'm so glad that we're celebrating the $10 million for the TCTAC with We Act leading it. And I will turn it back over to you, Peggy.
Thank you, Lisa. Now I'd like to invite each member of the TCTAC steering committee to introduce themselves. So I see Melissa, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Peggy and Administrator Garcia. My name is Melissa Miles. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance. We're a 20-year-old organization formed by a cross-sector coalition of organizers and advocates from around New Jersey. We formed to build power towards environmental and climate justice, and we are one of the 2 New Jersey-based members of this steering committee. And I know when some of you heard that We Act had gotten $10 million to launch this, that your eyes got big, but we're really talking about trillions of dollars of federal investment, totally unprecedented, never before seen, may never be seen again. So we're here really to help all of you and your communities tap into this investment. And with that, I'll pass it to Kim Gaddy.
Thank you, Melissa, and good evening, everyone. I am Kim Gaddy. I am the Executive Director of the South Ward Environmental Alliance. We are an alliance of residents and community members of the mighty South Ward. The South Ward is 1/5 of the city of Newark, or 75,000 residents. It is the backyard to the 3rd largest port. So the environmental issues and the environmental injustices that are happening in our community impacts the quality of life for those residents. And so the South Ward Environmental Alliance was founded by me in 2015 to make sure that we have a seat at the table and that our voices are heard so that we can improve our quality of life. And as Melissa stated, 5 years is a great opportunity to learn how to tap into the $4 billion+ that can multiply to trillion when you kind of leverage it with other funding for so many EJ groups who have been left out. and who have not been able to have a seat at the table and receive funding for the work that you have been doing for years. And so we in the South Ward, we will focus on the New Jersey community, Newark and the greater Newark rims. And we want to just make sure that each and every one of you participate and is empowered with the information, because you are the local experts, and we want to make sure that you are a part of the narrative for your community. And I'm going to pass it to Al.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Peggy, Lisa, Melissa, and Kim. I'm Al Huang. I'm the Environmental Justice Director, and I'm a lawyer at the Institute for Policy Integrity at NYU School of Law. We are a nonpartisan think tank comprised mainly of lawyers and economists, and we're dedicated to improving the quality of this governmental decision-making. We focus on issues of regulatory policy, energy, environmental justice, and climate. And one big thing we do is we produce original scholarly research in the fields of economic law and regulatory policy. And we do advocacy before courts, legislatures, and executive agencies. We're really excited to be a part of the Region 2 TCTAC. Our role really will be to listen to the members of this TCTAC and figure out what types of technical assistance in the form of trainings and issue briefs will be needed to really accomplish the goal of getting these grants out and leveraging them for communities. And as part of that, we'll be doing EJ, energy, climate policy briefs, trainings, and as well as like briefings and other types of regulatory policy matters. And for example, in January, we're going to be doing our first training on Justice 40 and using the Climate Economic Justice Screening Tool, which is important for everyone applying for these grants. Our team is comprised of 2 lawyers and 2 economists. The 2 economists are Bertrand Nell, who's also our Executive Director at Policy Integrity, and Basu War, who is our EJ Economics Fellow. And the legal team is myself and Michelle Florentin, who's our EJ Legal Fellow. We really look forward to working with you, and I'm going to pass it over to Michelle from EPA.
Thank you so much, Al. I'm Michelle Roos. I'm the Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Network. I'm sitting in the Bronx, north of many of you, south of some. And we are very, very excited to be partners with WEACT on this TCTAC. We are a small nonprofit. We have a volunteer network of over 600 EPA alumni that in primarily their retirement are volunteering their time to continue to do good in the world. We've been following Peggy and Kim and others lead for a little bit of time. For about 2.5 years, we've been providing pro bono technical assistance to communities across the country. And so far, we've connected about 150 of our volunteers to over 450 requests for technical assistance. And so the launch of this TCTAC means we are just getting started. So our staff and our volunteers can help folks anything from demystifying the EPA regulatory process to the grants process. I'm happy to hold folks' hands and partner with them throughout. I will also, my colleague Kaya Williams put in the chat a link to our associates. I know that some folks were calling in from California. So if you operate in places outside of New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, and the tribes within those borders, and don't know where to go to get technical assistance, please reach out to us and we will connect you. And also, you will see later on Davina Resto, who's our Senior Community Outreach Associate, who will be the main point of contact for the TCTAC and is 100% dedicated to this work over the next 5 years. And I will turn things over to Abby.
Thanks, Michelle. And hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Abby Ramanan. I'm a project director with Clean Energy Group. We are a national nonprofit, although most of our staff are based in the Northeast. And our focus is on providing innovative technical, economic, and policy solutions to enable communities to participate equitably in the clean energy transition. We also have a sister nonprofit, the Clean Energy States Alliance, which is more focused on working with state energy agencies to advance clean energy policies. And so our role within TCTAC is primarily as a technical and policy expert. Our staff have pretty extensive expertise in clean energy technologies, particularly solar and battery storage, what we kind of call resilient power solutions, as well as in kind of fighting false fossil fuel solutions like CCS and hydrogen. And we also, I will plug, have a technical assistance fund, which provides small grants to help communities identify and assess their resilient power needs. So I'll drop our website in the chat to help you all learn more about us and our resources. And we look forward to working with all of you, including we have our first kind of training offering coming up in December, which will be an introduction to community solar. So with that, I will hand it over to Sheila.
Great, thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Hi, Peggy. Hi, Lisa. How are you guys doing? Good to see you. My name's Sheila Foster. I represent the Columbia Climate School. It's an interdisciplinary school within Columbia University with a network of researchers that are working on issues of climate and environmental justice, many of whom are working in and with communities. And I'm the connective tissue, I guess, to those resources, including policy, data, resources, et cetera. I've also been sitting on the New York City panel on climate change, working on these issues myself, bringing a lot of those tools to bear, and started my career, in fact, in Camden, New Jersey, working on environmental justice issues, along with working in Chester. I've had the pleasure to know Peggy and to work with We Act off and on for many years. So happy to be here and happy to be a part of this team. Thanks. And over to Yogani.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Yogani Govender. I am going to be the new project director for the Technical Assistance Center for Region 2 Caribbean, and I'll be focusing mostly on Puerto Rico and the USVI. I'm really excited to start working with Peggy and React that we just got into partnership during this grant application process, and I'm learning a lot about the movement in New York and New Jersey and all the history that you all bring to the table. We will be providing support for grantsmanship specifically in New York and New Jersey, and I look forward to working with everybody in Region 2. And I hand it over back to Peggy.
So hi, everybody. Good evening. One second. All right. Everyone can hear me? Yes. Okay. My name's Jordana. Vanderselt. I am the Director of Operations for WEAC's TCTAC. So I will just sort of go quickly through some slides we have, just providing an overview of WEAC's Technical Assistance Center, sort of the services that we plan to provide, as well as some upcoming training and funding opportunities that we're going to highlight today. And while I'm speaking, feel free to chat in your questions because we're going to have time at the end for Q&A with all of our steering committee that you just heard from. All right, so just starting with some background and sort of framing on this project, on this program. Really, with the Justice 40 initiative launched in 2021, the federal government has made it a goal that 40% of the overall benefits of certain federal investments flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginalized, underserved, and overburdened by pollution and climate change. I think, as Melissa mentioned, these are historic investments in climate and clean energy that have been made from legislation, including the Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law. And the TCTAC program in particular, was launched to ensure that environmental justice communities receive the technical assistance they need to benefit from the funding directed by the Justice 40 initiative. So the EPA in partnership with DOE, has selected 16 TCTACs across the country that'll be receiving or have received 177 million total to help underserved and overburdened communities. All right. So a little overview of WEAC's Technical Assistance Center and really our purpose and our vision for this. You know, we will provide training and other assistance to build capacity for navigating federal grant application systems, writing strong grant proposals, and effectively managing grant funding. In addition, you know, this community engagement piece will provide guidance on meeting facilitation and translation and interpretation services, thus hopefully removing barriers and improving accessibility for communities with environmental justice concerns. We'll also really create and manage communication channels to ensure all communities have direct access to resources and information. And looking at sort of the details, we've sort of mentioned some of these points. You know, we're funded for 5 years, so until 2028. Our official launch date is today. Like we said, this is a joint program of the EPA and DOE, with EPA playing the leading role. One second. With EPA playing the leading role in administering this cooperative agreement. Our geographical scope is Region 2, which includes New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. WEAC's TCTAC has been assigned to serve New York, New Jersey, and 8 tribal nations, while Yogani and our partners at Inter-American University of Puerto Rico have been assigned to primarily serve Puerto Rico and the USVI. So we have partnered together, you know, on our proposals to ensure that there's really relationship and power building in Region 2 as a whole. Our general format for TA will be providing assistance through a curriculum of trainings, through on-demand technical assistance, which we'll talk about later, including referrals. We'll be building up a resource library, and then we'll also be hosting in-person annual convenings. So our primary technical assistance areas. So grant writing and fundraising will probably be at our core of what we're going to be providing, you know, focused on federal grants, but not limited to, with assistance ranging from portal registration, identifying and understanding RFPs, developing project concepts, and developing strong proposals. You know, as we go on, we'll also be developing additional trainings and providing assistance on private philanthropy and individual fundraising. Along with that, you know, providing assistance around EJ policy and regulatory analysis, energy justice and energy projects, grants management, EJ needs assessment, connecting EJ groups with academic partners, building partnerships and engaging with decision makers, and then just some introductory training in environmental justice using a WEAC training module, Environmental Health and Justice Leadership Training program, which, you know, really touches on community organizing and campaign work in addition. So our upcoming training opportunities, we definitely wanted to schedule some initial general trainings for everyone. These are definitely some foundational trainings that we thought could be beneficial for all. But our plan is to assess as we go and really figure out what more people want or need, and schedule trainings around what we hear from you, essentially. But hopefully this provides a jumping off point. So in the month of November, the Environmental Protection Network is hosting SAM.gov office hours. In December, Clean Energy Group will be hosting an introduction to community solar. In January, our partners at NYU will be having an introduction to Justice 40 and the CJUST tool. And in February, we have South Ward Environmental Alliance hosting an environmental justice and community organizing 101 training. So again, there'll be opportunities for, your feedback to be heard by us, and then we'll, sort of incorporate that into our plan as we go. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention is that we do plan to recruit a cohort of about 20 to 30 participants to sort of regularly engage in these trainings and our activities. But again, to also provide us feedback, like I said. So we hope the cohort will really act as an important source of feedback to improve the TCTAC moving forward. There'll also be an important feature for achieving these movement building goals. I think that the EPA in general has for these EJ TCTACs across the country. So we will be able to provide cohort participants with a stipend to really support their engagement in this. We are still developing our cohort structure and our process for recruitment. So we'll definitely be following up with more details about that soon on what that process is going to look like, but wanted to flag it today. All right, so then we definitely wanted to share some federal funding opportunities today. We have 3 that we can look at, and of course, we'll regularly be keeping up to date on things that come out, not only at the federal level, but looking at an EPA one right now, the Environmental Justice Community Change Grants will be for $2 billion. Total funding is $2 billion overall, with each award being 10 to 20 million or 1 to 3 million, depending on the project. This notice of funding is not out yet, but expected to open very shortly this fall and be open for 12 months. Who can apply? A partnership between at least 2 CBOs, or a partnership between a CBO and any one of the following: a federally recognized tribe, local government, or Institute of Higher Ed. And just a little more on those community change grants. Here on the screen, you can see, a list of eligible activities. Again, we'll know more when the NOFO is released, but climate resiliency and adaptation, community-led air and other pollution monitoring, prevention and remediation, green jobs, workforce development, heat, mitigating climate and health risks from urban heat islands, extreme heat, wood heater emissions, and wildfire events, investments in low and zero emission and resilient technologies and related infrastructure, reducing indoor toxics and indoor air pollution, and then the community engagement piece, facilitating the engagement of disadvantaged communities, in rulemakings and other public processes. So more to come on that soon. The other EPA grant that we wanted to highlight today is this grant making program with the Thriving Community Subgrants. So in 2024, the EPA is launching a Thriving Communities EJ grant making program, where one entity in each of the EPA regions will serve as a grant maker and be able to further award at least 40 million in subgrants. So the subgrants will be available for 3 phases of community readiness. Phase 1 would be for assessment projects for up to 1 year and up to 150,000. Phase 2 will be for planning projects for 1 to 2 years and up to 250,000. And phase 3 for development projects for 2 years and up to 350,000. Again, a long list of eligible activities that I don't want to read out, but I'm going to try to read out for everyone. Monitoring of effluent discharges from industrial facilities, fence line air quality monitoring, air quality and asthma, water quality, improving food access, small cleanup projects, environmental justice training for youth, stormwater issues and green infrastructure, illegal dumping, pesticides and other toxic substances, lead and asbestos, emergency preparedness and disaster resiliency, and then environmental job training and some healthy homes work. And finally, the last federal opportunity that we'll just highlight today is from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So HHS announced the launch of a nationwide Environmental Justice Community Innovator Challenge to support disadvantaged communities and tribes facing the brunt of environmental justices. The challenge aims to uplift community level solutions to address health inequities with prizes totaling $1 million. This challenge has 2 phases. So phase 1 will be open until January 30th, 2024. We'll focus on design of an innovative concept to enhance community-driven efforts to mitigate health disparities and advance health equity. Phase 2 will begin in spring 2024 and will focus on small-scale testing or implementation of well-developed approaches for these community-led efforts. Okay, so maybe most importantly, how do you reach us? How do you connect with us? People interested in receiving assistance can reach out to our email, ejtictac@weact.org. We also have a TCTAC website on our WEACT website. From this, you can access an intake form to request technical assistance. Tell us a little bit about, a project that you want help with, or what types of areas you'd like help in. And we also have a QR code up on the screen right now. If anyone wants to take a moment and snap a picture of that. You can sign up for our email newsletter and to stay informed about our upcoming training and funding opportunities. But I think likely with everyone who registered for this webinar today, we'll be in touch about next steps. We're recording this webinar, so we'll be able to send that out. And questions. All right. So let me stop sharing my screen real quick. Okay. So again, I hope folks were chatting in some questions while I was speaking. Of course, I didn't have a chance to monitor the chat. So we're just gonna highlight, one second. We're just gonna highlight our steering committee members right now. And I'm gonna go ahead and read out some questions. Again, feel free to chat in more.
Jordana, sorry, this is Lisa Garcia. I just wanted to add a huge thank you for this overview, and also just make sure to emphasize and highlight all this information to please share it out to other partners. And so it's great that there's a lot of people online, but obviously we're hoping that this work, that there's a domino effect, or that there's a ripple effect, and everyone can contact some of the contacts that you have that maybe between WEACT and the partners and EPA didn't have. So we're also depending on your help to get the word out for this technical assistance. So thank you so much, Jordana.
Thank you. All right, so 1 second. Let's see. So could you give an example of what grant writing assistance might look like? Do we provide first drafts that are then edited by the TCTAC, or is it more like the TCTAC gives writing pointers in a webinar? So just speaking to our grant writing assistance that we plan to offer.
Yeah, Davina, do you want to answer that question? This is like an example of what grant writing assistance might look like.
Yes, sorry, I wasn't sure who that was directed to. Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, what the TCTAC will be able to do in terms of grant assistance, it won't be direct writing, but it'll be providing some sort of guide or templates to grants to help you support you in your grant writing process. But it won't be directly writing for communities or for grants. Something that EPN has been doing for a while and that we are hoping we will be able to do through this TCTAC is creating guides that walk you through grant processes and take you step by step and provide checklists to ensure that you're just keeping on pace with these grant opportunities. And then I believe that, and also correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to speak for Yugani, but I believe the Inter-American TCTAC is also going to be providing workshops around grants. Is that correct?
Yes, so just to follow up, thank you, Davina. Yes, absolutely. Yes, we will be providing technical support through TCTAC through workshops and step-by-step guidance. So it's going to be hands-on. Community organizations can register and participate with us for 5 days. And at the end of the 5 days, you would be expected to have at least a draft proposal in hand. We will provide you with tips, as Davina said, also with templates, and guide you along the grant rating process so that you are ready to submit when funding opportunities are available. So we will be giving you guidance throughout the entire process.
There's another grant-focused question. Curious if you know of any other upcoming sub-granting opportunities, like the Thriving Communities Small Grants, the grant-making program. I don't know if Davina also has any info on that, or if anyone else has heard.
We know that in the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, part of the awardees or the grantee will be, you know, similarly getting kind of a chunk of money and then the obligation to work on sub-grantees or awarding the money to communities. And obviously Justice 40 leads in kind of all of that work that we're putting out with RFPs and requests for funding. I am not sure on the cycle of the awards, but I do believe it's in the summer or fall of 2024. I don't know, Michelle, if you have the exact date, but that's one that we do know of is under that Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. A few of the requirements will be to fund those community-based projects.
Right, we'll put a link in the chat. I even just put a quick link to Solar for All. So basically these $27 billion worth of funds that were just, the deadline just closed is all for investment in solar in communities, including Solar for All and other green investments. Thanks, Lisa.
Well, one question, Lisa, I wanted to ask you. Will Region 2 be able to track the New York State, New Jersey money that's coming into those states?
We certainly track the state revolving funds. And if the states win any of these greenhouse gas reduction funds, we would know where they're going. We wouldn't, I don't know if this answers your question, but we wouldn't necessarily track state funding. It would only be federal funding that flows through to the state. And so we could make an effort. Yeah, like NYSERDA, we assume may be one of those. Adam just put in NYSERDA, but we would be able to track some of that funding. And I think it would be really great to figure out a way to have that information housed with the TCTAC also. So we can work on that piece. Not only, like you mentioned early on, that it's not only the federal funding, but we know New York has EJ small grant. So maybe even just being aware of when that round comes out. So that's a good project to work on, is to make sure that we have the New Jersey, New York funding. I don't think Puerto Rico or the USVI, Yogani, have any of the small grants, but they may have some of the greenhouse gas reduction funds. So we could track that also. Yeah.
Yeah, because Lisa, certainly there's going to be a large sum of money coming to state agencies from the federal agencies. And
Yes.
we don't know if that money is going to be given out in a discretionary way, if there will be grants, or if it will be just as of right that the state will grant funds to certain municipalities.
Yeah.
But I think that's an important thing for us to understand, as a lot of the small municipalities need the same kind of help that many of our community groups do.
Okay. Yeah, we can look into that. Especially like the Department of Energy just is rolling out their community-based solar program. Ours is called Solar for All. I don't know what Department of Energy is. And I believe that flows through to the states and the territories because Yogani, I don't know if you were there, but
Yes.
we went to the Puerto Rico announcement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's work on that, Peggy and Yogani. We'll figure out how to do that. And I believe a few people from EPA are on, so that's a good piece to follow up on the state funding.
Right. And back to you, Jordana.
Sorry.
Oh no, this is good. I'm just looking at some technical things. We're definitely going to save this chat because people are dropping in lots of good information there, and we can circulate that. For anyone asking us about our cohort process, as I mentioned, we're really working through what that's going to look like. So we'll be able to follow up about that as well. Let me see, there are some energy related questions. Let's see. Can you speak to some of the economic solutions that are being discussed? Clean energy wise.
Yeah, I think that was directed at me, so I can take a stab at it. So in terms of, it was unclear from the question if you're referring to kind of I mentioned the economic solutions that like Clean Energy Group, for example, has worked on in the past. And I'll say that from a policy standpoint, that's a space we work a lot in. And one thing that we're able to offer and that we work with a lot of communities, if there's sort of project-based questions around, you're developing a community solar project or solar plus storage or resilience hub, something like that, is navigating kind of what are the financing and economic opportunities available, both federally through the IRA and things like the low-income communities bonus credits and the direct pay option there, or also on the state level, what incentives are available in New York, New Jersey for things like battery storage, and figuring that out. We know it's a very complicated and complex process, and there's still honestly a lot of uncertainty and guidance that is yet to come out. So we're working on that in real time, but that is something that we're happy to work with you on if there's like more specific project-based questions. And if that was not kind of the context behind the question, feel free to mention that in the chat and I'll try and respond more specifically.
Another energy related Let's see. Do you have plans to provide TA to EJ and DACs in regards to thermal energy networks and how municipalities can better prepare to have conversations with utility providers and private companies?
I wonder if I could give a high level answer to that. One of the things that EPA envisioned is that part of the assistance is determining where funding is and what the community group or organization is interested in, and then beginning to almost to work out some of those details and what project might fit into some of the federal funding. And so someone may be able to answer that question, but I don't want it to steer us in the direction of folks thinking that they have to have a great project in mind with all the details. Part of this, and this is what EPA heard, is that, what's the funding out there? And I was thinking of this idea that I had and then beginning to almost work it out, of flushing some of those details out and seeing if it could be a project that would fit into some of the requirements of the grant. So I just want, for folks listening, you don't have to have that kind of idea ready to go yet. Please call the TCTAC or get in touch with We Act and some of the partners anyway, that it doesn't have to be that kind of detailed kind of thought or project. But if someone wants to answer that specific question, they can. I just wanted to give a high level answer of anything. You can come in with any idea.
Yeah, Davina, do you want to build on that a little bit, just in your experience in the last year plus?
Man, I'm like honestly blanking and don't have a prepared answer. I really will
I
just
can jump in, Davinia.
yeah.
No worries. Yeah. So I think that when we work with the grantsmanship part of this technical assistance component, we will be working very closely with organizations because it's so complex. There's so many different ideas people are coming up with and really creative ways in which they can address their community problems and through the networks. And the idea would be that we would take community organizations' proposals, look at it in the context in which they want to propose their project for funding, and then try to, through the process of grantsmanship workshops, try to identify the potential partners that they need to work with to have effective grant applications, right? So each proposal is going to be unique in itself, but the process of developing that process, the organization will be able to identify maybe they need to get involved with a municipal partner or a private partner or a donor or somebody else. So the idea with the TCTACs in our technical assistance is to provide those connectors, see which would be the best route for that organization and provide them with EPN, with professionals in the field to help them along so that they get the right partner on the team. And then help the partner as well, because we know some, and as Peggy mentioned, many municipalities also would need help to help community-based organizations in this process of developing a proposal for federal funding. So I think each organization is unique in their solutions that they're going to bring to the table, and based on what they propose to us, then the technical team will then be able to find the right fit. I think I wonder if that satisfies the question.
I can also just jump in on thermal energy network specifically, just because I know that was in the question that was asked. I know this is like a very kind of new focus area, and that's part of why I think some of us are unfamiliar with it. But I'll say that I know some of our partners at Clean Energy Group have been working with groups in Massachusetts on this. So for that particular topic, we'd be happy to walk you through what we know at the very least and our experience there. So hopefully that's helpful, but I know it is an emerging topic area for a lot of us.
I could just say something quickly about trainings. We weren't thinking about the thermal issue in particular, But I think once we have the cohort and we also start having kind of more interaction with groups on the ground, I think at that point it would make sense to identify what are the trainings that people want and which ones are the ones that organizations would find the most helpful. And do our best to, I mean, we can't do every single training under the sun, but to do the ones that there seems to be a lot of interest in and that groups find will be beneficial in either pursuing grants or doing their work related to the grant. So I don't know if that was as helpful, but I think all I'm just saying is that we want to do a process down the line where we are kind of getting your ideas about what technical training you need, and then going back to see if we have the expertise for that and providing them, and hopefully getting as trainings that benefit as many people as possible. As far as one-on-one technical trainings, those might be a little more challenging, but I'm sure there'll be exceptions to that, and we'll discuss that as a group too.
And just to jump in on a training also, that's why it's going to be so important that in our regions, in our areas, that we have as many organizations signing up so we can have an assessment of what your needs are. And then we will be meeting and having conversations because you are the local experts, and we want to make sure that we are doing what you need, right? We're providing those right services to help you because, again, a lot of opportunity for these 5 years, but we want to make sure after these 5 years, you're able to maintain, right? So it's really, really important that when we send out surveys and for needs assessments, and that you really articulate to us what it is that you really need.
Jordana and Dana, in addition to the questions in the chat, I think Shane Brooks has his hand.
Yes, hello. I'm the one who asked the question regarding the thermal energy networks. What I'm looking for, so since this is a new emerging technology, this is becoming more of a topic, specifically in DACs and EJCs. So of course, the utilities are proposing these 5-year pilots that the Public Service Commission doesn't really know yet should a utility be owning, operating, and managing this type of system. And most municipalities are not prepared or not equipped with the knowledge to have these type of meetings. So the utilities will be talking circles around us with all this jargon, all these different concepts and stuff. I just want to know, will there be opportunity to better prepare municipalities to have these conversations and mention and bring up the things that we should be bringing up regarding ownership, regarding all those type of things, revenue, that we should be, I guess, privy to, because they are digging up our grounds in our cities and putting these systems in.
So I'll answer that. I am not sure of the capabilities of the TCTAC to do that other through, and I'm looking at Al, Michelle, and Sheila, that there be the training and it be focused on, municipalities and community groups on emerging technology. And so that might be kind of a little bit of a different lane, but certainly helping everyone to understand what those sorry, I'm in emergency mode. Emerging technology is. And I do think that part of these partnerships are working through that. So I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I do think that could be, as Al was saying, kind of creating that kind of training opportunities for people to understand what's out there.
This is Yogan. I just want to jump in quickly, following up on Lisa. I think the strength of this TCTAC is this network that we're building, right? So we will be able to reach out to the experts, whether it's from a federal agency or from the Department of Energy, to provide that type of assistance to communities that require those teasing out of jargon and understanding the new policies on energy and all of that. The TCTAC can provide that type of support to the community. We may not have the experts in-house, but I think through the network, reach out and throughout the country for experts that could come onto the team and help the community organization develop their proposal for federal funding. If maybe one of the proposal that you'll want to work with is education and outreach about the specific theme, then we can bring in those experts. So I think that's the strength of this network. And the idea of having the 16 TCTACs, we could just reach out quite easily to bring those very unique expertise that will be required for that proposal to be written. So I think that's good.
And then I would also just add that that we're going to be able to get federal officials to come out and talk on these issues. So Shane, if it's thermal energy, I'm sure we can get somebody from the DOE to come out and talk about that, or do a webinar, or whatever it is that we determine will be relevant to what everyone needs. So again, making that providing the access to the federal agency folks is certainly part of what we can be doing, and certainly we'll do that. Jordana, any more questions?
I was going to say, was there any more of that? I was waiting for a pause because you all are actually doing a good job of just discussing all this. I see like some general questions. Will the TCTAC facilitate connections with city and state agencies for potential collaborative projects? There was someone in the chat who said we need a find a partner and find a project feature, perhaps, of our TCTAC. So if anyone just has any ideas on that, can speak to that.
Yeah, Davina, do you want to talk about how we get questions from a group, help folks find partners and projects?
Yeah, Jordana, I was trying to read the question. Can you just reread it again? Or
yeah.
I wasn't sure where it was. Thank you.
Yep. Can you give no. Will the TCTAC facilitate connections with city and state agencies for potential collaborative projects?
Right. Great. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I think one of the things with the TCTAC and with just like technical assistance that EPN provides in general is kind of what everyone has been talking about is a lot of this money is going to, states or other places, and how are we facilitating kind of those connections? How are communities going to get that funding? How are we going to build those relationships? How is everyone getting notified of where this money is and making that relationship and making sure that everyone is staying connected? I think that's one of the biggest things that we've been trying to fill that gap. We've been doing it in many different ways, whether that is building a form where we're just collecting names of people who want to get connected to, lead applicants of grants or state applicants of grants, connecting you that way, folks we know that are going to be leads on applications, making those kind of connections. Or sometimes we get communities who come to us with questions about, I have a Superfund site, or there's a brownfield site in my community. How can I what can I do? What are my next steps to kind of revitalize that? We can kind of connect them to the, this is the EPA person that you're going to want to talk to, or the person in your community you're going to want to talk to. I think that's something that we really try to facilitate. And we really don't have a linear way to do that, right? I think it's very holistic, and we try to just meet everyone where they are when trying to make these connections, whether that is through the form where we're collecting names and making those kinds of connections through email, getting on a call like this and making these connections through webinars, through just whatever kind of facilitation that we can provide to really amp up that kind of partnership. But yeah, I hope that is a little helpful on how we aim to do that, or are trying to do that, and why it's really important to us. We hear kind of what everyone is saying with all this money and the funding. States are getting a lot of it, but how are we ensuring that it's getting to communities? And that's by making these connections and by putting communities in front of these folks that are getting the money, and making sure that we're saying they're right here, and building up those partnerships. So yeah, hopefully that's a little helpful.
And I know, Adam, you have your hand up. You had a long question in the chat that I hope you can.
Yeah, I figured it might be helpful to try and just summarize. I did want to thank EPA and congratulate WEACT and your partners. To be perfectly honest, if it were not for this initiative, well, I certainly wouldn't be here because this is a very daunting situation, and I think it's really brilliant that you set this up. That being said, there's three barriers that I think are pretty challenging. One of them is not probably unique to New York, but it's happening in New York. The first, though, is that the general perception that I see among community-based, constituency-based organizations is just finding the whole process so overwhelming that they're not engaged with it. And so I think part of the challenge is going to be not only getting the word out, but getting the word out in such a way that groups that are under-resourced will actually think there is value in engaging in this. The second area is, as I think everyone is aware, both municipalities and CBOs are not very well resourced to engage with this process in terms of staffing. And anything that can be done beyond technical assistance, beyond the grants that EPA is rolling out, leveraging philanthropy, whatever it is, to build capacity, because obviously, you can have the best technical assistance ever, unless there's staffing available, it's not possible to engage. And then the last piece is with our agency here, NYSERDA. It's my perception that they've actually taken a couple of steps back as far as collaboration and co-design with groups in the EJ, CJ space. There are a couple institutional exceptions to that are not really filling in for the kind of engagement they need. They have not engaged in Solar for All beyond the industry, and really not much anywhere else. And so to the degree to which the TCTAC and EPA itself could assist with that, I would say that would be very, very important. Another problem we have in New York is we don't have a so-called federal climate funding czar. There's no interagency coordination in Albany. So even if NYSERDA was doing everything 1,000%, they obviously cannot have authority over other really important agencies such as DEC, DOT, and so forth. So I guess any response to any of those things, I know that was a lot, would be most appreciated. And I understand this is not a sprint; it's a marathon. Although some of it feels like a sprint.
Well, Adam, certainly on the climate czar issue, that is something that we have been discussing. I think now that the TCTAC is launched, we need to bring our advocacy together with New Jersey and New York to ensure that a climate czar of some sort or coordinator is identified. And I would also say that there needs to be someone identified in every state agency and at the city level. So I think as advocates, that's something that TCTAC should do as a group, because again, it's going to be very difficult for groups to access funding that's coming to the state if we don't really have access to and relationships with key people in those state agencies. So I think that's very important, and I think that's one of the first things we're going to have to try to make happen.
Thank you for that.
I don't know if anybody else has some thoughts on that, but I think it's pretty important.
Not on that piece, but I would add that one of the goals, hopefully, is that in assessing the different types of funding, that you would get to a point that the community group that applies or organization that applies could use some of it for staffing. And so, a lot of times, not only is it we don't have the staff, we don't even know if there are grants with that capability that you could have an administrative component to a grant. And so hopefully we're not giving out staff, but we're hopefully allowing folks to think about all the opportunities given all the grants that there are.
And Jordana, I did see a question about grants management. If there would be workshops to help people who may already have a federal grant or would want to know if they got one, how they would manage it. And definitely there will be workshops around grants management. That's totally very important. Yep.
Yes, we've heard that from a lot of groups and something they'd be interested in. So definitely noted that, and we'll work that in. Interested to hear more about convening community groups and building capacity. Will we be having workshops around that? Sort of aligns with what we were saying.
Well, I really think that's about building capacity and understanding strategic planning. And I think it's going to be very necessary for us to do those kinds of workshops that help groups understand where they can go, what their needs are going to be administratively. So yeah, I think that's very important.
Jordana, there were questions in the chat about the Brownfields tab, which are the technical assistance providers, which is another EPA program. I'll also mention there's another EPA program called the Environmental Finance Centers. So these are all programs across the country that are set up to provide pro bono technical assistance. In addition, there's a TA program for water, and the TCTAC's 100%. If you come to this TCTAC and you need brownfield support, we will loop in the brownfields tab. This will not be seamless because this administration is doing what we've all been asking for decades and doing it all at once, but we will get you there. So 100%, the ideal, I think we will hit it, certainly year 2, year 3, is where all of these various pro bono technical assistance programs are set up throughout the federal government, across agencies, and certainly throughout EPA work in a coordinated fashion.
And it looks like Michelle's doing an awesome job of answering a lot of questions in the chat too. Let's see, there is one. Can you give examples regarding the kinds of capacity building and technical assistance programs that would be provided to disadvantaged communities? Is our TA applicable for all types of disadvantaged communities? I don't know if there's more context to that the person who asked would like to provide, or if you all can answer to that.
Are they asking about what we would provide or what they could get from a grant? It's unclear.
Yeah, it seems like what we could provide, but if anyone is still on who asked that question, feel free to unmute and clarify. All right. Let's see. Question. Oh, new one. Okay. Oh. What kind of assistance will be had during the implementation of these plans or ideas from this coalition and from the EPA? And Emily, if what I read out was not clear, Emily could unmute and, clarify if folks need more clarity around that question.
I
can hop in. I'm not sure if that question is being directed to anyone, but and I'm not sure also the clarity of the question. So if Emily does want to clarify, but I'll try to attempt to answer what I'm understanding. And hopefully it kind of goes hand in hand with the other question that was asked just before about the kind of maybe resources that can be provided to disadvantaged communities, the type of programs, just in general, you know, beside other than, you know, the general grant assistance that we can provide. Organizations like Environmental Protection Network provides, you know, technical assistance that expands grant assistance. For example, a community who is appealing a permit and their organization that's appealing a permit in their community, you know, we provide that kind of expertise, technical assistance. There are a number of nonprofits and organizations on the steering committee as well who provide specific types of technical assistance related to specific issues. So I know Abe and her organization can provide a little bit more help for groups looking for, you know, clean energy technical assistance. And I won't speak to the other organizations and what they can provide, but I think we all do a little bit of everything. In terms of WEACT, I mean, in the TCTAC itself, maybe Jordana wants to give a little bit of a background on what the TCTAC itself will help to provide. But in terms of during the implementation of this plan, what kind of assistance, I think at the moment, if groups are looking for assistance, you know, you reach out to WEACT and they will connect you probably most likely with the organization that can best serve you with a technical assistance request that you're asking. The questions are a little vague, so I'm very sorry if I'm not answering them very clearly or understanding them properly. But yeah, I think just always reach out with any questions if you have technical assistance needs, whether we say outwardly this is something would help you with or not. I think in the long run, we can always just connect you to the best help in the end. So
I'll just reiterate that. Thank you, Davina. Just the end there that it's almost like, you know, no question is a stupid question, or just come in and ask, because the whole point is that this is a group of partners that know and have a lot of information. And so you could ask the question and get 10 answers, or you may get connected to someone else that has the right answer. So I just want to reiterate that the whole point of this is to please don't hesitate to ask for technical assistance. Thanks, Chris. That was on cue. I appreciate that.
Yes. And I mean, just even from this chat alone, things are coming up that, you know, we're sort of hearing over and over again that we can build into our plan. So the more you reach out with questions or, you know, ideas for how maybe like we could better support you, that's super helpful for us to know as well. So let me see. Yes, and there's our technical assistance form. All right, I'm just checking to see if there are any unanswered questions. But again, we will save this chat with a lot of the answers written to these questions and distribute that with the recording. So how can county governments get involved and help spread information and surveys, etc.? And information about the TCTAC and their services?
Yeah, if you work for a county government, reach out on that form. There's a bazillion different applications that you as a county can apply to, but also that you might want to spread the word about to frontline communities in your county. But 100% county government, local government, tribal government, many of the funding opportunities in the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law are actually geared towards small government agencies that have not traditionally received federal funds, and the TCTAC can 100% support your applications to those fundings.
Yeah, I noticed a question from a group doing domestic violence, and could they apply for green jobs? You know, absolutely. We're expecting that all kinds of organizations will be part of this, not just environmental groups. We have to remember that environment is intersectional. We're talking about worker training. We're talking about transit, parks, open space, energy, indoor air quality. So, you know, the types of organizations that I believe we will end up working with are going to be very diverse. So again, let's get out of the mode that environment is some little pocket. It really extends to where we live, work, play, and go to school. And so all of those diverse organizations that are interested in worker training or parks or youth education are going to be groups that we hope to work with, housing groups, community development groups. And we will be doing workshops in person. Some obviously will be by webinar to get large amounts of people, but some will need to be very hands-on. You know, I know somebody wrote, could we vet their particular direction for a grant? And I would say, once you understand grant writing and developing specific games and specific project objectives, it will be much easier for you to see whether your project is going in the right direction. So that's part of what we seek to do, to ensure that you know how to develop your goals and objectives and activities that will really lead to the kinds of outcomes that are being requested.
Yeah. And I'll just add, Peggy, that includes answering the question on education, outreach, and learning how to reduce lead in communities. And so these are the types of questions and opportunities the TCTAC is really geared to help out. And then the other piece is for folks who maybe joined a little bit late. So Yogani Govinder is with the Universidad Interamericana in Puerto Rico. And so the opportunity to have some of the materials in Spanish is being worked on, and obviously to have even interviews or conversations in Espanol will be there. And Yogani, you may want to talk a little bit about this, but we're looking to also have a hub in the US Virgin Islands. And we've heard a lot from the communities there that translating into Creole would also be helpful. So, and so if there's other languages, we can consider it. Yeah.
Yes, so absolutely, Lisa, thanks for that. So in Puerto Rico, we will be developing all the materials in English and in Spanish, and integrating into the TCTAC the use of technology. We all know, like, you know, we could talk in Spanish and the transcript could be in English today, right? And so we will be doing a lot of training to our staff to help anybody with any language barriers, how to use technology to try to address the application process, because it can be challenging for somebody that doesn't speak in English to actually develop a proposal. So we will be encouraging you to write in the language that you're most comfortable in, or even be interviewed in the language that you're most comfortable in, so you can develop your ideas and your project objectives and goals in the language that you're most comfortable, and then provide you with those technological translation services. So, and then we would then provide a person to go over the proposal to make sure the English is aligned to the call for proposal, and give you tips how to strengthen it. Because sometimes in the translation process, the crux of the project gets lost sometimes. So we will be having technical staff on the ground to help you to ensure that your voice is heard, irrespective of language.
And I know we kind of touched on this, but a few people are asking, you know, the different types of populations or orgs or communities that we are able to assist. And we have a long list of entities who range from just individuals, to established organizations that we can help. I know we have a list that perhaps we could drop in the chat, or I will. It's also on our intake form, the different types of individuals or organizations that we can help, that we can assist. There we go.
But no, on that list is individuals and underserved communities. So when we're talking about populations that are not traditional, when you think of EPA grants, as Peggy said earlier, think of this more as environmental health and justice. And go ahead and ask.
All right. Oh, and we just have, oh, yes. Thank you, Chris, for dropping the intake form again. So we do just have 2 more minutes. Let's see.
And I just wanted to mention on the traditional or tribal or indigenous assistance, there are, and I apologize, I'm forgetting the name, but there is assistance on a national level to help with some of the tribal questions, and because I know that federally recognized tribes or Indian nations have some different funding opportunities, and so there is that opportunity, and we'll make sure to share that information on the TCTAC specifically for tribal and Indian nation assistance. So that'll be a little bit separate.
Yeah, the National Indian Health Board is our, yep, there we go. Thank you, Morgan.
Oh, yes. Okay, great. Thank
yes.
you.
And I saw another national on here providing their assistance, ICMA or ICMA. I can't remember how you all say your acronym, is another national TCTAC. And then we have the Institute for Sustainable Communities. So we have 3 national TCTACs available to help as well.
And on the different languages question, just to add also, so because we have this national network, we'll make sure to see, which kind of region is translating in different languages. And if there are some missing, we'll take that back. But I think the Puerto Rico folks are taking the lead on the Spanish and the USVI on Haitian Creole, but there may be other TCTACs working on some other languages. So we'll try to make sure that we have an understanding of all those, all the potential needed languages that some of the materials need to be in, and to be able to share that across the nation.
All right, I realize it's 7 o'clock. Any last words from anyone on our steering committee?
If you have a question, go ahead and ask it by sending that email, by filling out the form. Do not be shy. If we're not the right people, we will help you find the right people. And we're all highly, highly motivated to see you all make tremendous progress to take advantage of this moment. So please do not hesitate to reach out.
And thank you all for joining, and stay tuned.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Have a good night. Thank you,
everybody. We look forward to meeting you all.
Good night.
Night.